days, I realized that I am someone who's meant to be seen and heard. I was a field reporter. I took my job very seriously. Covering Northeast really pushed me, to the deep end, because then I covered terrorism, I covered militancy. YouTube or Instagram is big now in India. I have to see which platform I am most suited for. And I'm also enjoying the break. I mean, I've been on the run for a very, very long time.
Hi everyone, you're watching Stories That Matter with me, Bushra Sadkhed, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I have a very, very special guest that has agreed to do an interview with me. She has been the face of television journalism for over 2 decades. She's also a wellness coach, and now she's a budding digital influencer, I can say. Please welcome Afrida Rahman Ali with me. Hi Afrida, how are you?
Hi, Bushra. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. Such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine. And I want to start from the very beginning when I talk to you, because you have been a television journalist for 22 years. And all of the people that are watching my channel, they are mostly coming and asking me about journalism. They want to know about television journalism. They want to know how to get a job, why they should pursue it, that kind of questions they always have for me. What really inspired you to pursue journalism in the first place from the very beginning? Can you tell us?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Assam, and I was always, even as a child, very self-aware. I used to always try and see what am I good at, and I could tell that I am interested in the business of communication. So I would do a lot of debates. I would take part in extempore speeches in school. So from those days, I realized that I am someone who's meant to be seen and heard. You know what I mean? So I realized that I want to be in that area, of profession, which requires me to be public speaking in some way. And I found that the career of broadcast journalism would suit me very much. I was also very opinionated. I was interested in what is going around me, current affairs, news. These things would interest me. I was very, very curious about what the world is up to, what's happening in the country. So I felt I have all the right, you can say, signs that you need in a student to take up this profession. So it was a natural choice for me. And I did my graduation in Assam, and then I joined a mass communication course in Jamia Millia Islamia. It was a very coveted course, at least in my time, because there were very limited seats for general category. And I didn't even think I'll make it. But once I made it to the mass communication course in Jamia Millia Islamia, which took only about some 15, 18 students, like other than the quotas. So to make it among those 18 students from across the country in very, very highly competitive place it used to be. I think it still is, or maybe not, I don't know. So that gave me a lot of confidence that I am already, I felt as if I'm meant to be in this business, and I'm already among the people who've been screened from across the country to join this course. So from there on, there was no looking back. I knew that I will get into a good workplace. And sure enough, immediately as I completed my master's in mass communication, I joined Aaj Tak, which was the #1 Hindi channel. Though I was from Assam, my Hindi was not very good, but I convinced the bosses there that I'll learn, and I'm willing to start from the bottom of the ladder, which I did. And then slowly I sort of picked up, I learned the ropes, and things went on for the next 2 decades, over 2 decades.
That's amazing, because that gives a lot of hope to people like us who are like you, whose Hindi is not the best. We can speak Hindi, but we really mix up the grammar while speaking. So
Yeah.
yes, even I feel like going to a Hindi channel, and then suddenly they're like Hindi में लिखना आना चाहिए, बोलना आना चाहिए, and I'm like मैं बस बोल सकती हूँ.
Type करना भी आना चाहिए. I used to type in Hindi. My Hindi typing was very good because, like I said, I was an eager learner. We would have to type in Hindi. Yeah, scripting everything, because obviously it's a Hindi channel. All your octopus, how the newsroom software is. Now it's in those days, now it's iNews, which you and me have worked in. But before that, we used to work in something called Octopus, and it was all in Hindi. So there was no escaping typing in Hindi as well. But when you are that age, and when you are so full of ambition and wanting to do something, you pick up, and I did. So it was a great start for me, I should say, because the language of the masses is Hindi, so I had to learn. And if you want to reach out to the people, you had to speak the language of the masses, of the larger population, isn't it? So I understood it. And that's how it went.
Great. And now that you became a journalist, now you told me about how you entered television journalism and then it went all uphill from there, I would say. But then what would be the most memorable stories or that one interview that you really remember? Some highlights you can share from your career as a TV journalist with our viewers.
There are many highlights, Bushra, but I'll just randomly, try and tell you one or two. So as I was growing up, there are very few woman icons that I used to look up to. One of them was Kiran Bedi, India's first IPS officer. So I had a poster of her in my room during college. Her poster used to be, those days used to get centerpieces with newspapers, So I put her up in front of me because she was one of those women, inspiring woman figures in the country. I used to look at her, that how she rose to the top of her profession. And in a completely male bastion, right? So it used to inspire me, even though I had no ambition of joining the police force. But seeing a woman in that avatar, a powerful woman, it used to sort of give me that energy just looking at her. And then, one fine day in office, I was called by the assignment desk, and I was told that she got this huge honor to be the head of the United Nations Police. And that was in the year 2003. She became the United Nations Peace Department operations. She became the police advisor in 2003. And of all people, I was called by the assignment desk to go and interview her. So now you can imagine, all my life, I have been doting on her, watching that poster. And one fine day, there's this assignment to go and interview her in person. I had butterflies in my stomach. I still remember there was this camera person who was to accompany me. And I went to him and I said, he was very senior. So I said, sir, I'm extremely nervous because she's my icon and I don't know how I will do. He said, no, you'll be fine. But then you know how it is. Once the camera is on and, you get into the mode. I did the interview with her and I was so excited. On the way back, I called up my mom. I said, Amma, you won't believe what happened. I just met Kiran Bedi. So those are the career highlights, I would say, more because it also becomes a personal moment for you. I wouldn't have career highlights like I won this award or that award. These moments are more rewarding for me. You know what I mean? Other instances also, which I would say career highlights, if you're asking me, I was chosen to go for an Omega launch to Switzerland. I was very young, and I remember because I was a lifestyle journalist those days. I used to cover fashion, lifestyle, health, fitness, those that was my beat when I was reporting as a Delhi bureau reporter. So the first time going abroad to Europe, that was another career highlight where I was chosen among journalists from across the country to cover the launch Omega's new watch. That was a career highlight. Then, of course, going forward, I moved out of the lifestyle beat and I was covering Northeast. Covering Northeast really pushed me, to the deep end. That is when I learned the rigors of journalism, because then I covered terrorism, I covered militancy, right? I mean, there would be bombing and you have to be there and reporting about what happened and who's responsible and what the government is saying, and then interview the state ministers or the chief minister, and you would have to talk to people and cover those kind of incidents that used to happen often when militancy was rife in the early part of my career in the Northeast. So I was covering Northeast. So there are many career highlights, I would say, there that I really learned how tough it is, and especially for a woman, because when you're traveling, there are no washrooms and you have to somehow manage. And how I used to sort of rough it out a number of times. But those were experiences which toughened me, which taught me, again, to see the real India, to see how the marginalized communities live, the poorest of the poor, as you can imagine, in Assam, interiors of the state, where I would travel. Then I would also, I used to do this special program. There was a program on Ajtak called Dharam Ajtak. So it would, I once covered this strange superstition that people had in Majuli Island, where the men folk decided to, actually there was some superstition that there is a witch in the village, and they would have to identify it, and they would have to cut her nose off. Can you imagine? Like, in that's the sort of blind faith people have in the interiors even now. So it woke me up to the society that we live in. And when I went to cover in Majuli, obviously I was not given permission by the district authorities, because they said it will be extremely risky for you. The people out there are not very civilized, and they are in a very strange sort of mode right now, because they're catching women and chopping off noses because they think there's a witch among them. So to identify that, to clear the village of whatever impurification they thought, and so it's not safe for you to go there. But somehow I managed to convince them. I had one of the district officers accompanying me, went to that village, saw those people, actually met the women who went through that physical abuse in the hospital. They were getting, can you imagine, like they actually had to mutilate their noses. So I covered many of those kind of stories as well. Besides politics, militancy, besides covering the natural calamities, obviously floods would come every year. So I got exposure in multiple different things, and Northeast is a plethora of, you can say, a diversity. In terms of every state is so different, the politics is so different. Meghalaya is different from Manipur, from Arunachal, the dynamics are so different. So it gave me exposure to so many different cultures. So there are many career highlights, I would say, momentous occasions, when I was covering elections and campaigning, but I won't be able to specifically recall some interesting anecdote right away. But that's how it has been, largely.
It tells us how exciting your career as a journalist and on television. Why did you transition to digital? Was there a defining moment or series of events that happened that led to this transition from TV to digital?
Bushra, there comes a time. Basically, I feel that I have moved across, say, 4 TV channels, and I have worked in practically every area. I was a field reporter for many years, for 6-7 years. I was out on the field. Then I became a news anchor, and I took my job very seriously as a news anchor. I used to be hosting the morning show for Times Now for many years, before that for NewsX, before that for India Today. So I became a face of the morning, because that was the time my kids were growing up, and I made a very conscious decision to work early hours. So I was balancing my career with kids, so that period of time I was fortunate enough to get early morning slot. Now I did that. Then the kids grew up, I moved, I took more responsibility. As you know, I was handling teams in the output department of Times Network in Mirror Now. So there I was deciding the news agenda sometimes, and I used to be writing headlines, I used to be designing news bulletins, and I used to be presenting a primetime show. Now there comes a time when you feel you've done all of this. What next? What will you do now? And exactly around the time, what happened was I could see that you are supposed to now follow a mandate. Things were being told sort of in some way or the other that this is how it has to be, and I kind of got uncomfortable with that, because the way I learned to do things, I was always taught in the sense, what I knew about news is very old school, that you have to be true to the facts, that you should not care whether it's pandering to this side or that side, or who will be pleased or who will be displeased. Your job is to present facts as they are and give perspective. Of course, I could understand that now everybody has a mobile phone, so things come to you instantly. So it's not like, the reporter or the news anchor will now tell people what has happened. People already know what has happened. Everything comes on the phone instantly. So I could understand that news has moved now from merely communicating what has happened to giving an interpretation of why it is important, you have to now give perspectives, you have to now give context, you have to now probably even sometimes, because you have the experience and you've seen the backstory. So as a journalist, I realized my job was to give the backstory, my job was to put things in context, my job was to explain the entire perspective, why it's important, why it's affecting you. All that I could understand. What I could not understand was why would you have to toe the line? Like, you are either on this side or that side of the divide, and sort of have to pander to one thing or the other. That did not suit me at all. And the more obvious it was becoming, the more uncomfortable I was becoming as a journalist. So I knew that maybe my time is up. There's only so much you can do, and now without compromising on my principles, I cannot continue. So either I would have to compromise my principles and continue for the heck of it, not internally happy, or move to something else. And it just happened, that circumstances also sort of just happened that my office moved out from Bombay to Delhi, and that just became a reason, an excuse, whatever you might like to call it, for me to step out of that zone entirely. And I wanted to then do a rethink, reinvent myself, reimagine myself, and see what else I can do now. I want to be productive, I want to be creative, I want to have something to offer. By now I have learned so much, but what exactly will I offer? What will I do? I'm still in that process. I'm still brainstorming, and I'm also enjoying the break. I mean, I've been on the run for a very, very long time, mother of 2 kids, maintained a career for so long. You know how it is, how much of a balancing it requires. So I don't mind slowing down a bit. So that's where I am right now.
And now that you're in digital, what is different in digital that you're seeing from TV? Are there any particular challenges that you're facing that you're trying to overcome?
So digital, see, it's a very broad term. You have to again specify what in digital, because you could in digital be working for digital news platforms. So I do contribute articles and video blogs sometimes. Like there's a Hindi digital platform called satyahindi.com. I send my video blogs whenever I do a video analysis of a topic which comes in there, what they cater to. So if it flows with their mandate for the day, and then I send them my vlogs, and sometimes they use it. So there are platforms like that I contribute on and off. But primarily what I'm thinking now is that 60% of India is below 30 years old. It's a very young country. So they are not consuming news on television channels. They're mostly consuming information on YouTube, or Instagram is big now in India, right? So I have to see which platform I am most suited for. Like I said, I still haven't arrived at a conclusion, but I am exploring, and I can see that I have a lot of takers on Instagram. And it's a short format. You talk for a minute and a half, and people share your content, and that's how your ilk grows, your audience grows, and it's growing. And I'm sometimes surprised to see that, wow, I have managed to build an audience on Instagram in literally no time. What is the difference? It's a huge difference. I mean, there, of course, it was very comfortable, a corporate salary, you go to an office, you work 8-9 hours, and you do your job, you come back. But it also stunts your growth a bit, because you stop doing your creative imagination so much, because you already given a mandate, you already know what to do, the drill, so you do it like that. Here you have to constantly think, constantly, being a content creator, you also always have to observe the pulse of the people, where things are going. So digital is a different ball game, but it's far more fascinating, I think. It's far more fair game. It's a very fair game, because you instantly get people's reactions, you can read people's comments, you see how many people have watched you. And what I find most fascinating is that all of these platforms allow you to see where your audience is coming from, how many men are watching you, how many women are watching you, where they are watching you from, how many hours, or what is the stay time, everything. I was most surprised that for every little content that I put out, I can see these minute details. And what it does is that if you are good with studying data, you will be great at redesigning and, again, course correcting and again restructuring yourself. And that's such a fair game. Instantly you get feedback. It's in front of you how you have performed, and then just correct yourself. And if you can crack it, you can be super successful, because the system is such that it's helping you to make your product a successful one by giving you all the feedback all the time. So huge difference in television, where we used to get such feedback. We don't even know how we are doing. The TRPs would come and they will give you a random figure. This is how much your show has got views. But you don't get this sort of a micro picture. So that's a very big difference.
So looking back at TV again, I remember my debut had happened around in February last year, and few of my, I think 2 or 3, I think we must have done those tosses where you were the anchor and you would, pass it to me, and then you would also train me and mentor me, even if it was for a little time, but it was great insight for me.
So let me go across to my colleague Bushra, who's joining us from the Mumbai newsroom, to take us through the details on this. Yes, Bushra, over to you. This is important information we are sharing with our viewers, especially for the current and prospective home buyers.
Right, so we know that whenever there are builders involved in our lives and home buyers, as home buyers we always face trouble with builders because promoters...
Absolutely, Bushra, thank you so much for giving us clarity on the subject.
I'm nostalgic about that. I really cherish those, few little reports that we did together. What makes you nostalgic about TV? Is there something you miss about TV?
Yeah, I am nostalgic about few things. Sometimes when I look at my old videos, and now I'm totally out of that mode. Like, I would be wearing those blazers, my hair would be very nicely styled, I would get my coffee on my desk, and I think that what I miss, not so much of all those frills, so to speak, though when I look back at it, I'm like, I sometimes feel, wow, that was a good time. But I think what I miss the most, I would say, people like you, Bushra, the team, working with a team. Yeah, the youngsters who would come all starry-eyed from college, and then you get to talk to them, you get to hear from them, their perspective, you get to learn from them. That I'm not getting now. And it was always so good to be surrounded by these, what do you call it? Enthusiastic. That enthusiasm is everything, right? That energy and enthusiasm is infectious. It used to make me energetic. It used to make me want to do more. So that whole environment where you have a team with you, I'm hoping that with time, as I grow my audience, I'll have a team again. I know you're there in my mind for sure. So, so I'm like, that is something I'm nostalgic about. And sometimes, just like you said, the other day, a younger colleague of mine, she was in Bombay for 2 or 3 days, and she took pains to come and see me. She came to see me, and I was so touched that somewhere we must have done some good work together. Somewhere I must have been nice to her, and she was, of course, very nice to me. That she came, even in her brief visit to Bombay, she came to see me. A senior colleague of mine also, when she was visiting, came to see me. And they say they miss me in offices. Now the entire office is in Delhi and I'm based in Bombay. So when some of these colleagues come to Bombay, they come and see me. And that makes me very nostalgic about those times when we used to work together. So I think I'm most nostalgic about some of my colleagues, including you.
I really enjoyed working with you. And, as you said, maybe the only thing you did was be nice. Because in media, there are very few people who are very nice to you, because that whole field it is, that whole industry is like. So you really miss those people that, mentored you well, that really, they didn't let that whole 24/7 cycle come up to them and, just say, they just, stopped for a moment and said a nice hi, maybe a nice smile. I always remember when I used to cross by your desk, you would always smile at me. No matter how busy you are on your shows, you are like writing the script. But if you pass by you and say, hi, Afrida, good morning. Mostly good afternoon. I think you were in afternoon.
I was mostly in the afternoon because my show was an evening primetime show. So I would only show up after like 1 o'clock or something.
That is one thing specifically about you that I would say from everybody in the newsroom. Very few people who are really kind, who are really patient. I think because you're a parent, that's the reason why you really understand. People don't understand that, when there are youngsters and, very enthusiastic, there are people get not annoyed, I would say, but just say like, back up, calm down. But when you have kids, maybe they are also like that. So you really know how to carry yourself and converse with people younger to you. Maybe that is the reason why
Ah,
it's like that.
maybe.
So that's right. So now that we have spoken about that, I want to ask you what advice you would give to young journalists who still want to come into journalism, who still want to come into television journalism or any other, print, digital, television, whichever journalism in this entire media environment that we are seeing right now. Are there any specific skills, any specific experiences, a specific mindset they should have? What advice?
Yeah. So yeah, you use the word mindset. That's the key word, the word mindset. And I want to tell you that journalism is not a profession. It's a lifestyle. So I have quite a few things to say to those who aspire to join this profession. First and foremost, you must understand what are your core skills. Journalism does require you to be good with words. It does require you, if you want to be in the broadcast medium where you'll be seen and heard, it does require you to be well groomed and well spoken. If you are aspiring to be in the print journalism, you will need in-depth research, analysis, understanding, because you are usually writing a longer piece with a lot of information in it. Your writing skills come into the picture. You should enjoy doing something like this, going into the depth of things, interviewing people, understanding issues. Digital, of course, I already mentioned, is a different ball game. Attention is fleeting there. So there again, you must understand things like what is a hook? How do you get the audience to listen to you? So those sort of things. But since you asked, what is the advice those who are still aspiring to be in television news? I would say that be very clear. There are so many channels, observe them, watch them, and do you see yourself doing one of those parts? Then by all means. It's very fascinating, of course, because the best part about journalism is there is no dull moment. There is no monotony. There is no drudgery. Unlike other professions, you go to office, you do the same old thing, you come back home. Here, every day is new. You don't know when you go to office what your day will be like. You could be faced with any challenge. Any breaking news can come your way. It's fascinating because, it's like intellectually stimulating. So if you want to get into a profession which will be intellectually stimulating for you, which will be, anything but monotony, it's like the right opposite of monotony. Yeah. All of those things, very exciting, even glamorous if you are on screen, and if you're a news anchor, it is considered glamorous, though glamour is not a word I really like. I would like to say it's very, you could say, it's a lot of pressure because you put yourself out there fully, right? You're fully exposed. How you speak, how you talk, how you move, everything is under scrutiny. So if you like being under the scrutiny up close and personal to that extent, then this profession is for you. On the flip side, I would only warn you that there are erratic timings, there are deadlines, and there is no such thing as working hours, because it's news. News can happen at any time. So you have to be very prepared, and you have to actually want to do it. If you are of a 9 to 5 mindset, don't go there, because here everyone is working with passion. You require that passion, that this is the news I have to convey to my audience. I have to do to the best of my ability. I want to write a nice line. I want to make an impact. If you have that in you, then journalism may be the right profession. And then, of course, I'll leave it aside about how certain things are becoming difficult to operate as a journalist because of certain media channels deciding to go a certain way. I'll keep that out of the picture for now, because when you're young, you need to learn the ropes. So don't get into that. If you want to get into profession, learn the ropes, learn how the senior most people are operating, learn from them, try and have a few mentors, try and have a few role models. That's my advice to you if you want to join TV journalism.
Thank you so much for sharing those wonderful insights. I had such a good time talking to you, catching up with you. It was just like catching up with a colleague. And you are so, not only graceful on screen, but as a person also, you are such an elegant and such a down-to-earth person. So really, thank you so much, Afrida, for doing this with me.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. And you can definitely go and watch Offbeat with Afrida. That is her YouTube channel. I'll put the links in the description box below. She has an Instagram page also called Afrida Rahman Ali. Do check her out if you haven't already. You must already know Afrida Rahman Ali. She has been the face of television. I would definitely say from all of us, not just youngsters, everybody, thank you for your service in journalism.
Bushra, I wish you all the best. I'm glad to see how much you have grown since I first met you. You're an amazing person, and God bless you. Thank you.